Well, hello, hello, hello. This is LaQuita Parks, your host. And guess what, guys? We are here for another episode of So What's Your Story? And I am your host, LaQuita Parks. I am the CEO and founder of PayProV Publishing. And PayProV means pain, progress, victory, because I believe without pain, there is no progress. And without progress, there can be no victory. So I help people take their stories from a thought to a realization. I absolutely love that. And so, what's your story? It's all about the story. So, those of you who know me know that I'm all about the story because our stories have the power to heal. The only stories we cannot heal from are the ones that we don't share. So, I am here today. We do this every second Thursday of the month, and I have some amazing guests here with me. I am so excited. And you guys know that's my word. My favorite word is amazing, super excited, awesome. So I'm gonna have to find some other words to describe my excitement. So Stephanie is a principal, so maybe she can help me find some words. And Thomas, you being a singer and a songwriter, maybe you can help me find some other words to describe myself. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourselves, but before we get started, I'm gonna throw a little curveball at you, something you were not expecting. It's okay. All right. Because I think you guys can lean with it, rock with it. I think you guys can roll with it. I think you can do it. Okay. So we're going to get started and go ahead and introduce. Stephanie, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, who you are, where you're from. And then we'll go to Thomas, and then I'll throw a little curveball at you.
All right, my name is Stephanie Connolly. I am originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, born and raised, of course, a diehard Steelers fan, of course. I grew up in the Pittsburgh public school system, going to predominantly Black schools, transitioned to Atlanta in 1999 and been here ever since. 22 years in education, and loving it and seeing the trends that have occurred, especially on the middle and high school level.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you know what? Let me say right now, thank you for your service, honey. Thank you for your service. Okay. I know you're not military, but these educators, I say thank you for your service because I know I have friends who have stayed and friends who've left. And I was in education for 7 years. And, I couldn't hang. It wasn't the kids, it was the rules, but we'll talk about that later. Okay.
Mhm.
Thomas, thank you so much for being here, Stephanie. Thomas, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and where you're from.
Hey, I'm Thomas Ware. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I'm from Groveland, Florida, actually, just a little bit outside of Orlando, Florida. And I'm looking forward to this conversation tonight. Um, Exuberant, as that's the new word for you. So
Exuberant. Hey, let me write that down. Exuberant. Exuberant. And listen, just so you know, I borrow phrases. Okay. So don't be surprised if you see it up in lights sometimes. Okay. So here's the curveball I want to throw at you. So I want both of you, if you can describe yourself using the letters of your first name, what would it be? Don't think too quick, don't think too long about it. Whatever comes to mind first is what it is. So I want you to use the letters in your first name to describe yourself.
All the letters?
Yes.
that's what I was going to ask the thing.
Yes, all the letters. All the letters. Well, we can do last names since last names are shorter. We
Okay.
can go ahead and do last names. I'm gonna let you guys have that, but we can do last names.
Last name.
Hmm.
Um, oh wow. Um,
Whatever comes to your mind is the first thing. So while you guys are thinking, I'll go first. And
okay.
I haven't
Okay.
I haven't done this. I usually do it on the first name. So let me see if I can do my last name Parks. So I'm gonna say perfectionist. I'm going to say amazing. I'm going to say respectable. I'm going to say kind. And I'm going to say sassy.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that's me. That's me. All right. So Thomas, you got the shortest name,
I
last
got the
name. So
shortest one with the worst letters.
right.
Well, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and go. I'll go
Okay,
ahead.
we're gonna give you a couple more seconds, Thomas. Okay.
Okay.
So I would say that I am calm, especially under pressure. Optimistic, very optimistic. I am very nice. Some people might not say that, but I really am very nice. I am uh I believe in like learning.
Mhm.
Um and then I'm eager, very eager and youthful.
Yeah.
Dealing with middle and high school children, you have to be you have to stay with the trends.
Stay with the trends. I love it. I love it. All right. All right. You ready, Thomas?
Um, Wise, assertive, robust, and um, the last I just I don't know, electrifying. I
All
don't know
right.
what to say.
I was gonna
I
say
just
energetic, but
energetic.
electrified
Yeah,
is good
yeah,
because I don't know
electric.
you, but I know that you seem from what I've seen, you seem energetic. So those are
Yeah,
good. Those are good. So I like to do icebreakers sometimes because sometimes people are expecting icebreakers, so they know we're gonna do an icebreaker. And then sometimes we're not. So either way, it kind of breaks the ice. That's why it's an icebreaker. It kind of breaks the ice, but it also gives you something more to think about. So if you say, I'm wise, then she's like, okay, what's another W word that can describe myself? Or what's another A word or R word? And it's always kind of positive, doing those positive things. I also do this because there are some negative things that we can say about ourselves too, but those are not the things that we focus on. However, we need to know those negative things so we know what we need to work on. So, and here we go. As we dive into this conversation, education and mental health. And I like this conversation. As I was saying before we came on, I have a niece that works in. She just started a new school this year, and I said, "How are things going?" And she does special ed, and she said, the kids came in unprepared. They didn't have. She said they didn't have school supplies, but they had those Takis. So, she said, and they're, fighting. And she just said, okay, this is what we're in for. But on the flip side, she has a son that has autism. And she said when they were leaving, and before she could say, and he is semi-verbal. And she said before she could say anything else, he said, bye, baby. And she said, all right, now it's gonna be a good day. That was huge for him. It was
Mhm.
huge. So she was like, it's going to be a good day. So let's talk about mental health as it relates to education and how that intertwines. And so, Stephanie, you've been in education for a long time. What made you go into education? And then what made you stay?
Okay. So my family always laughs at this story because when I entered into college, I was actually an engineering major. I wanted to be a petroleum engineer so bad. And something switched for me in college when I really started to be about service to other people. And I realized that potentially in the job that I was pursuing, that I wouldn't find that fulfillment
Mhm.
um, in being a service to others. And so I looked at some of the other majors that were out there, and education just popped out at me because I have so many educators in my family.
Mhm.
So started taking classes, loved it. And when I hit my classroom, my very first year in Clayton County, Georgia, in Riverdale, I loved it. Um, the light bulbs that go off, the aha moments, the building of relationships is so paramount to being able to do my job and do it well. Building relationships with family, building within the community, those are a lot of things that a lot more people are starting to talk about that educators are doing in order to make sure that we are making that connection between school and home, and understanding that this connection is what is going to help us or help me thrive as an educator in the classroom, or even with my position, as a principal. it helped me to thrive in that aspect as well, because I was able to build those relationships.
I really like that. I worked in education for 7 years. I worked in Atlanta public school system, at Garden Hills Elementary School, and I was the I started out doing the writing to read. Remember, they used to have a writing to read lab.
Mm-hmm.
I started out teaching children how to write and read on the computer, and then they stopped the funding for that. So I had to go into the classroom. And the first year I went into the kindergarten classroom, I was a parapro. And when they told me I was going to have to go in the classroom, that wasn't such a big deal. However, the teacher that they told me I was going to be paired with, I was devastated because I was like, okay, he's old. He was a white guy. I was like, he's old. He should have retired a long time ago. And I thought it was just going to be horrible. That turned out to be the best year that I had
Mm-hmm.
because he allowed me, he taught me a lot of things about myself.
Mm-hmm.
He told me one day, he was like, I don't think you should be a teacher. And at first I was like, what do you mean? This the children. What do you mean? What do you mean? And he said, it's too confining for you. He said, you are a great teacher, but not in the classroom because it will put you in a box. Now, I had no idea what he meant at the time. I was just in my feelings like, what do you mean? You know, sometimes when people tell us things and they see the light ahead of what we see, we can't see it then. So I took it like, oh man, and I was like, but Dr. Egan, I'm gonna be a good teacher. He was like, you will be. You will be a good teacher. So fast forward, I was only in his with him 1 year. They forced him to retire. And then they put me in a classroom with a woman who caused me to leave the school system altogether. And that was the best decision that I could have made because I left education and went into corporate America, but then I started creating my own programs, creating mentoring programs, creating programs where I did mentoring and it was parents had to be involved. So then Dr. Egan passed away. I found out that he passed away and somebody sent me a note that he had written about me. And I called his wife, and his wife said he talked about me all the time. I didn't know that. And she said he was actually speaking ahead of what I knew. And he was absolutely right because I'm able to work in the school systems and do some things, but I don't have to stay there because, hey, they can say, hey, we don't need you here. Take your stuff. And I can pack my little box and my little bag and go. But making a difference. And I've had a lot of connections and a lot of relationships that I've built in education. So I love that you said building connections and building relationships, especially with the parents, because if you don't have the buy-in from the parents, then your job is going to be a whole lot harder. So I appreciate that. So Stephanie, we're gonna come back to you. We're gonna go over here to Thomas for a minute. Thomas, tell me a little bit about you.
Well, some of the things about me, one of the things is that me and my wife, we've been running a facility that's called the Adult Day Training Facility, where we work with children with autism and intellectual disabilities, as well as adults. We've been doing that for about 13 years or more now, actually, collective. For the most part, in between that, we're also full-time ministry. I'm a pastor of the church, and my wife co-pastors along with me. And so we've been working in and outside of the community for a great period of our life, pretty much. And then outside of that, you guys know the music ministry as well. So it's like I kind of juggle a lot of things. I think one of my favorite things is really just ministry, and I'm involved in it so much. And I just like being able to reach people, people that are typically, left, and people that feel as if though they probably will never walk in a church, but we kind of take the church to them. So we just kind of, our hearts are just like really, we go out towards people to just help people a lot. Yeah. So
You know
that's me
what?
really in a nutshell.
Well, you know what? And speaking of that in a nutshell, Kevin, can you play this YouTube video? Um, we're gonna debut it here on So What's Your Story? Kevin. There we go.
All right, give me a thumbs up if the audio is good. Okay, here we go.
All right.
How can I help you today, Mr. Ware?
I don't even think I need to be here. I mean, I know I kind of like feel like I'm slipping, like I'm going off the edge a little bit, but I think I really just need a break.
Thomas, what do you see in this room that I don't see? God? Are you delusional? Are you delusional? What, you thinking that you can talk to God and that's going to help everything? That's going to solve the problem? All this is a constant cycle of your same behavior that you keep doing. And nothing's changed. Even here in this facility, I haven't seen anything change. The guards have told me you've been sedated. And you're not even taking your medication. How's that possible?
I don't need medication.
What, you think all the things that you have done over your lifespan, what, you can be innocent about that? Look what you've done to people. These are people you love. It's not people you love. You don't act like that to people you love. You gotta be kidding. There's no possible way I'm letting you leave here. I believe you deserve all the grief you are carrying, and then some. In fact, I'm committing you to solitary confinement for the next 6 months.
6
I'm
months?
signing that off right now.
What? You can't do that, man.
Guards, get him out of my sight.
Wait a minute. Hey, man, I got a family, man. You can't do that.
I've made mistakes. Oh, yeah. Some small, some great. Ooh, yeah. Broken, but was saying I'm okay. Losing pieces of me every single day. My affirmations say that I'm gonna be okay, but I'm steady carrying all of this pain. Everything that's holding me down, I'm letting it go, I'm letting it go. Everything that's holding me down, I'm letting it go, I'm letting it go. Everything that's keeping me from you, I'm letting it go. Everything that's holding me down, I'm letting it go, I'm letting it go. Hey. Everything that's holding me down, hey. I'm letting it go, I'm letting it go. Everything that's holding me down, hey. I'm letting it go, I'm letting it go. Past hurt, past pain, life reminds me every single day. Yet grace remains. Yeah. You kept me through all of my pain. I'm more than all of my failures, more than everything that I've been through. I get stronger and wiser the more that I get closer to you. Everything that's keeping me from you, I'm letting it go. Everything that's holding me down, I'm letting it go, I'm letting it go, yeah. Everything I've made in my life. But no matter what I feel like, you tell me I must let go of the guilt, hurt, shame, heartbreak, depression, strongholds and addictions. I'm letting it go. It won't hold me no more. Guilt, hurt, and shame, depression. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. Everything that's holding me down, hey, I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. Everything that's holding me down, everything that's holding, I'm letting it go. Everything that's holding me down, that's holding me down, hey, I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. This is our declaration. We say, everything that's holding me down, I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go.
Awesome. That was beautiful. So what was the inspiration for this? And you wrote the song, right?
That's correct. Yes. Uh,
Beautiful.
yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, the inspiration behind it. I saw a gap several years back where the conversation of mental health has been it was very, very much so absent in the faith community. And so for so long, we kind of have written off individuals as crazy or kind of push them to the side and not deal with them because of certain things that they do, not really embracing them and helping them through counsel. And I feel like a lot of times we've shunned it as one of the things, mental health, as if though it goes against faith and it goes against the belief in God if we need to have therapy or talk to someone. So this song was geared to push that element of faith in mental health. And I just really felt like that there was no real songs that were there in the faith-based community that really spoke to that specific thing. And I just truly believe, as we are spiritual beings, but at the same time, physical beings. And what we go through in our physical state can leave a lot of trauma. And in our community, many times, it has been so that whatever happens in this house stays in this house. And, that's kind of been our banner, what we live under. And that, so it's the same way for our full community outside of that house. What happens in our community, we stay shush about it, even if it's negative. And so a lot of times people really do need a safe place to speak to someone who can help them sort through some of those things that they have not fully understood, or why they went through certain things in life, how they can actually work it out in their life to where they can get past those moments. And sometimes we may never get past it, but at least we can have something that can help us be a little bit stronger when coming back to mind about some of the things that we've been through.
You know what? I think that's very important. And, I love the song, and I heard it for the first time yesterday. And so I'm a music person, so I can catch it. If it's catchy for me, I got it. And I love the hook. It's a beautiful hook. And I wish you much success with it because it's necessary. And it speaks to letting go. And it's just with anything, letting go of whatever the negative thing that you're holding on to. We did a show our last month. It was called Behind Closed Doors, Necessary Conversations, because we grew up in it, and we're all around the same age. We grew up in a time where what go on in the house, stay in the house. Don't you go telling our business. Don't you go up to that school telling my business. Don't even tell the doctor the business. It's everything goes on in the house, stay in the house, including mental health issues. And we, in our community, and even with myself, when, I'm the victim of medical childhood trauma, and I've been dealing with it for 50 years, but I've never really addressed it with a therapist. And so when my doctor recommended that I speak to a therapist, I thought, I'm not crazy. That was the first thing that came in my mind. And so for a brief moment, I was allowing the stigma of mental health and therapy and psychiatry to shadow my thinking, and like I'm not crazy. But I've been talking. I talk to a therapist every week, y'all. There's nothing wrong with it because she helped me work some things out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I love it because it's okay. Some people say, well, I got a lot of friends to talk to. It's not the same thing. It is not the same thing. So if you are having some issues and you're dealing with some depression and some anxiety, you need to talk to somebody other than your friends,
Yes.
other than, because they got some things going on too, and sometimes they can't be biased. So I appreciate that. I really, really do. I enjoy that song. And Stephanie, I want to ask you, as it relates to education, I know you deal with middle school and high school students. What do you see? How is it? Walk us through, as the principal, walk us through identifying when there is an intervention that's needed. Because I know I have a lot of friends who are in education. And one of my friends, she's in Alabama, and she says that, she has parents, everything is an IEP. They want to get an IEP, because it's not necessarily addressing the mental health, it's trying to get a check. But they don't realize that you're labeling your child, and it's not going to benefit him in the future if they don't legitimately need the help. So how is it? Walk us through what it takes to do an intervention where you say, okay, you know what, this child or this family situation is having some breakdowns. We're seeing that we need to intervene. Walk us through what that looks like.
Well, one of the great things, well, I will say for me and my school, one of the things that I truly love is that a lot of that red tape that a lot of traditional schools and school districts have, we are able to shift away from that. And we have students that refer themselves. We have teachers that refer them. We have parents that refer them. Anybody within our community that has interactions with our children has the ability to say, hey, I'm noticing this, and I just wanted to bring it to someone's attention.
Mhm.
And once they do that, we have a full-time counselor, a full-time social worker on our payroll, or we did have that, and they would immediately start the process. But one of the things that's important is for us to have some observations of what people are seeing, because we'll have parents that will tell us that the child that we see at school is not the child that they see at home. Or it might be vice versa. The child that we see at school may not be the child that is at home. And so it's very important before we can even start to try to put labels on children is to see what the underlying issue is. A lot of our students are dealing with stress, anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide. This has increased more so, and it has gotten worse in the last decade. And the pandemic is one of the things that really exacerbated that and really started to bring some of these things to the forefront. And so we really have to take those things very seriously. And when we're taking those things very seriously, we can't slow up the process. I mean, we have to take our time and do our due diligence, but we can't slow up the process, because the longer it takes for our babies to get that support that they need in whatever direction that they need to go in, is going to make it so that on the education end in the classroom, it's going to be easier. There are some issues that are very much barriers for us because we have a shortage of mental health professionals, and specifically mental health professionals that deal with school-age children.
Mhm.
We also have an issue with inconsistent funding for programming for our students. And there needs to be dedicated education to help students recognize and be able to manage their emotions and be able to manage what they're feeling. A lot of times in the past, we have been very quick to write off things that our students say or things that they do. But one of the things that's important is to really look at what those signals are that are or the cry out for help that may not be a loud cry. It may be a very soft
Little cry. Mm-hmm.
cry, and we have to be able to notice that. So training of our educators or people who are working within the buildings that are coming in contact with children every day to be able to notice these signs is equally as important. So I know that was saying a lot, but basically
It's necessary.
it's observations of the students. There's a referral, there's an observation of the student in which we have to take the data to see what is necessary, and then there's a determination by having a meeting with the parent what direction that we may need to go in. Is this a multi-tiered step approach? Is this maybe a eventual referral to special education? Maybe not. Is this a individualized health plan? Is this a 504 plan? So there's a lot of things that are out there that may be of support to the student that may not necessarily be leading them into special education.
Wow. That's good. I love the knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thomas, when I first a few years ago, I had a show, and I actually met him through Kevin Vaughn, who's producing the show. His name is Calvin Mann. And Thomas, I have to hook you guys up. I'm going to connect you guys. But he's in Michigan, and he does a Good Fathers program. And it's his platform is called Encourage Me, I'm Young. And he's also a singer-songwriter as well.
Awesome.
When I first met him, it was during the pandemic, and he was doing a smash suicide campaign. And I was just on his show a week or so ago, and I was talking about the same thing. Well, I could not, and it was for boys from the age of 5 to 11. And I couldn't wrap my mind around why would there need to be a smash suicide campaign for babies that are committing suicide. And I could not grasp the understanding. And he said it was during the pandemic. So what was going on during the pandemic? We were all sheltering in place, the whole country. We were locked in. And so he was like, a lot of them are locked in with their abusers. So when they go to school, there's the outlet. They had no outlet. So they had no recourse, and they felt that was the only way out for them. And it broke my heart, but it gave me an understanding of what's needed and what needs to be done. So my question to you, Thomas, is do you see in the work that you do you see is it equally weighted? Do you see more males than females, or does it not matter? And how how do you handle it? Do you treat them differently because of the gender, or it's not that doesn't come into play?
I think it's a good question, because like one of the biggest things that I've seen is that the male ratio is really different because they hide it more. And so many of us have been taught that that's not what we do. That's not what men do. We don't have issues. Boys can't cry. They can't talk about their issues. And, so it's really a hidden factor because we overlook them so often because it's hidden. When it comes to the female side, you see so many of them that are more open to show their emotions and show that they have been through some form of trauma. And so with that being said, that's one of the biggest areas I believe, is of the challenge. One of the biggest areas of challenge is that we have not given the space for the male population to really show or share what they go through and their vulnerability. And that is a big thing. So I think in dealing with between the two, I really don't think there's a big difference in dealing with between the two. But then again, let me say it this way. I would say it takes a little more, I don't know if coercing would be the word for the male population to get them to open up. And talk. So I believe that would be the biggest challenge or the biggest difference between the two of them. But I definitely know that the biggest challenge that we have is that our society is just built up making men think that we don't or we should not have these problems. So we kind of act as if though it's non-existent.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. I have a son, and my son, so he grew up in a house with women. We went through a divorce when he was, I guess, 7 or 8 years old, maybe younger. So it was just him with his mama and his two sisters, and he was middle child. Okay. So but I as he was growing up, I felt it was important to make sure that I connected him with strong men, that he could see them doing things that I, as a mother, couldn't do. Now, there are women who say, oh, you can't teach your son how to be a man. Well, there are things you can't, but as a mother, you can. When you don't have a choice, you can teach your son what he needs to do. You can teach him how to be respectful. You can teach him how to, those are the same things you teach your daughters. You teach them, but it gets a little bit different. You teach them respect. You teach your daughters respect. You teach your men. You don't put your hands on a woman. You teach your daughters. You don't put your hands on a man. You don't put your hands on anybody. So those things are necessary. But with men, the thinking is different, and so they're masculine, and they're not supposed to cry. Stop that crying. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to hurt. When they fall and hurt, when a woman falls and hurt and cuts themselves and it hurts, then it's okay to cry. But when a man falls and hurts himself, same hurt, same cut, don't cry. Suck it up. You're a man. Suck it up. And so they wear that armor. And this book, Our Journey from Boys to Men, Kevin Vaughn is one of the authors in this book. 22 men told their stories. 12 of the men in this book, or maybe more, had never written before. And all 22 of them asked simply because I said yes, because I asked. And it was not an easy process. They were willing. All of them were 100% willing, but they did not know how to start. And every one of them were like, I don't know, read my story. Some of the ones that had not written were like, my story isn't strong. I'm the weakest link. And I'm like, but you're not. Just tell your story. My dad is in this book. I learned who my dad was from this book. He's been my dad for almost 55 years. And I'm just learning some things about him from this project this year. As they say, today's years old. I'm just learning. And my son is in this book. So the people that I know, I have an uncle, I didn't know their stories. And it's because women share more than men. And so the healing has to begin. So I do these projects, and I sent this to you, Thomas, too. Not to put you on the spot. I'm just talking about the project.
No, that's fine.
After this one just came out on Father's Day. The ink hadn't even dried well on the pages yet, and people are already like, okay, are you going to do a part two? Are you going to do a part two? And then the women, I'm doing one for women, Stephanie. It's called Our Journey from Girls to Women. So because it's a space to tell their stories, and all of the people who are sharing their stories in this book, they were once there. And the importance in what you just said, Thomas, I think is very important. And Stephanie, it's important, especially in education, because we have young people who are doing some things at very young ages to get felonies. Mm-hmm. They're doing some things because they're operating out of ignorance, or they're operating out of what they've seen or what they heard. And so we have in this book, these men have told stories, and they don't tell they tell their true stories. Every story is not a trauma story. So there are stories in here, there are a mix of stories where men like Kevin Vaughn and Johnny Brown, and they tell the stories of how they grew up and what was instilled in them to bring them to who they are now. And there are some who were hard-headed. They were hard-headed. They didn't listen. Calvin Mann tells the story. He was hard-headed. He was like, hey, Julius Jackson, he was like, hey, I had two good parents. I came from good stock. It wasn't my parents. It wasn't them. They provided shelter. They provided a home. But I saw the drug boys out there with the gaiters on, and I saw them, the fancy cars, and that's what I wanted. So that's where I went, and it didn't work out. And so it's a whole avenue of reasons why, but whatever the reason, you don't have to stay there. And that's what this book is about. And that's what So What's Your Story is about. It's about helping people see and understand that wherever you are, you don't have to stay there. Listen, if y'all knew my story, y'all would probably start sending me donations. Okay. Y'all be like, okay, we need to help that poor lady. So it's, you just don't know. You can't look at a person and tell what their story is. So I absolutely love that. And so, Stephanie, let me ask you from an educator standpoint. At what point, and Thomas, I'm going to ask you this same question too. At what point do you say, okay, we can't help this person? They can't be helped. At what point?
I think so. One, I believe everybody should receive grace and have the ability to be able to redeem themselves. And if we are to eradicate the school to prison pipeline, if we are going to
I'm sorry, say that one more time for the people in the back that didn't hear you. The people in the back row, the school to what?
School to prison pipeline.
School, did you guys hear her? She said if we are to eradicate the school to prison pipeline, y'all better take some notes. See what you need to do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We definitely have to do things a little bit differently. And one of the things that I think is very important is to change how we provide consequences to our young people. Absolutely. Should they have consequences? Absolutely. If they aren't doing the right thing, absolutely. If they are out of pocket, absolutely. They should have consequences. But a lot of times our consequences are so punitive and it's life-changing, and it could be shattering for our young people. So we really have to figure out a way to pivot how we look at what the infractions are and what the consequences are, and how we make it so that our students, our babies, can how do I say this? Restore their community. If you broke it within community, you should have to restore it within community. You shouldn't be able to walk away and go home for a couple of days or whatever the case may be, and not fix what the problem is, because the problem is still going to be there once you return if it's never addressed. And so I think one of the things is it may take 10 times for somebody to get there. It may take somebody else 2 times to get there. So I think if I see, one of the things that I really look at is, are we decreasing in number? Maybe when a child comes to me in 6th grade, they might have 20 infractions, but we're working through the process. We're trying to utilize all the additional resources in order to help get the student there. And then they come to 7th grade and they only have 15 infractions. So okay, so we're seeing a decrease. We, and so I think that that's one of the things that we are a very microwave society. We want things very instantly. We want change to happen immediately. And change is a slow process. Change takes time. You have to be able to put in the work and have other people within the village and community to help put in the work along with you. And if you don't, if you're, what I find is, if the vision of the parent doesn't align with pushing the child to become that better person, pushing that child to take ownership and accountability, it's going to be a very slow process. But when you have parents that are on board and are working with you through the process, it makes the issuing out consequences and restoring of the community a lot easier.
Wow, I like that. I like that. And you know what? If we're not on the same page, it's not going to work, because you're working against the grain. You got to work together in order for it to flow. I have a mentoring program called Beauty Redefined, and I also have a year of Discovering Me. My program required parent participation. And people used to say, well, you're not going to get parents to participate. I had 100% participation. 100%, because number one, I set the ground rules from the beginning, and I followed through on the consequences. So, and it worked. And the kids, the parents with the younger kids start saying, well, when you going to do something for my children, the babies? You're going to get a program for them. So you have to work together for the common good. If they don't, and they have to want it, they have to want it. Tom, the same question to you. At what point do you say, okay, we can't do this. We can't help them. They can't. What point?
I believe, and I guess I'll speak more to the adult crowd. In my, I would say, experience, I believe that really it gets to the point to where, first of all, let me say, she said something that was really, really important, and that is extending grace. And that's so important because it's going to require a lot of grace when walking hand in hand with people and trying to get them to change and for their thought process to actually evolve to something of a better status. But I will say that once it gets to the point to where you notice that it's starting to take too much away from you, it's time to try to help that individual get to another level of help.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say I would ever say that it's just not gonna work. I wouldn't just throw in the towel, but I will say sometimes it's just that the person that they're walking alongside with is not what they need.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes different types of therapy. It takes different therapists that maybe they work better with some people than others. But I believe it's a matter of how much time can really be given. I think that's really what it boils down to. I mean, you do have individuals that, no matter how many times it seems as if though they've made progress, there's a relapse of some sort, and some things that they just refuse to let go of, and it's like I'm going to take this to my grave with me, and I'm just not going to change. Different. It just really depends. But I really think that grace is a very big element of it, and just really making sure that people are paired with the right person. Because that helps a lot of times. Sometimes the most impossible situations where it seems to be changes just in a matter of who they're talking to. And God has given everybody a different type of way of delivering the same message. And that's just, that's your personal way of what you've grown up, your own experiences, maybe the very thing that's needed to be put into that recipe to make it work for that person. So I really believe that it's really all about grace. It's really all about how long you can walk with the person or oversee a situation to help people.
I like that. And change of the circle is sometimes necessary. Change of the circle is sometimes necessary in order to move forward. Sometimes we move the needle one step forward and then we get pushed 2 steps back, but we move. And as long as we don't keep going back, we got to change it. We got to move it. We got to see, well, what am I looking like next year? Are we seeing any progress? Even if it's a little, even a baby scooting on his stomach is moving. Right. So we have to do that. But you know what, guys, the time certainly does pass by when you're having fun. It flies when you're having fun. Before we go, first of all, I want to thank you guys so very much for being here. And I know it was last minute too. You guys said yes at the last minute. I appreciate that. I think the conversation is highly important because school just started. And you talking about fighting, and this is just day 3. It's, that's not a good sign, but that's where we extend that grace and say, okay, you know what, this is where we are today, but we don't have to stay here. You get grace, you get another chance. So I appreciate that. I want you guys to tell people, what you have going on and how can people connect with you. And Thomas, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. Right now, our song "Letting It Go" is number 27 on Billboard in just 3 weeks. 3 weeks of the release. I'm really excited about that. I am currently taking dates, so I'm on tour and starting to travel. I am a co-producer of a movie that's going to be released on the Lifetime Movie Network on the 10th of this. That's actually Saturday, I believe it is, on the 10th. And it's the Miss Cleo movie. So that's going to be releasing. And for the most part, please just listen out for the song. You can find me on social media as Thomas Ware, CHMG, on Facebook. I'm on The Real Thomas Ware on Instagram. And my website is chmg.vip.
Thank you so much. And we're also scheduled to talk about your book next week
Yes.
on
Yes.
the other podcast, My
Yes.
Heart on Pages. So I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. And Miss Stephanie, tell people what you're working on and how people can get in touch with you.
So currently I'm building out my own independent educational consulting business. So I'm going down a slightly different path right now. People can find me on LinkedIn as Stephanie Conley and on TikTok as Stephanie Conley. So those are the two platforms that I'm currently on.
Okay, awesome. I have to connect with you. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Thank you guys so much. Listen, I believe in stories. I believe in telling your stories because 100% of everybody living and dead has a story. So if you want to write your story, you don't know how to start, we can help you get started. We can help you take your story from a thought to a realization. No matter where you are in your story writing journey, if you've got a story, don't know how to start, we can help you get started. If you've started writing your story and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm stuck, I don't know which way to go, we can help you get that direction going. And if you've written your story, we can read it and proofread it and do some editing and get it published for you. No matter what, no matter who you talk to, make sure that you are sharing your story in a way that connects best with your audience, because there's somebody waiting on the other end of your story so they can get healing from their story. So if there's anything I can do to help you, if you want to appear on one of my podcast shows, send me a message. You can reach me on payprovipublishing.com. That's PAPROVI.publishing.com. Or I'm on all things social media. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Twitter. If all else fails, you can Google me. Google me. You can get me just like that. All right. And so thank you guys so much. It has been a plump, pleasing pleasure. Better than a triple-decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Until next time, be simply amazing and exhilaration. Thank you, guys. Have a great one. Thank you, Kevin.
Have a good one. Thank you.